Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's a new episode of the Whole Athlete Podcast with myself, Debbie Potts, and my guest host to host is Jeremy from the Keto Summit website. Hi, Jeremy.
How are you?
I am great. Very excited to have you on the show because I've been following you guys for a few years, and I actually get a lot of emails, but I read and save all of yours. So, which is why I wanted you to come on the show and kind of share your story and your journey and your why. So let's just jump in and give us a little background on you and what you and your wife do for a living.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can go back a little bit into my life too, because when we talk about why, I think me, like so many other people, a lot of it started well before a professional career.
Yes.
And I mean, I won't spend too long on it, but I grew up as the fat kid, and I'm 39 now, and doesn't make me that old, but back in the day when I was in elementary school, there weren't that many fat kids. It just wasn't. It was obviously a growing problem, but I was kind of the token fat kid in my class, and it didn't have to bother me psychologically, but it did. And so, something I felt like was always made me feel not good enough about myself. Well, long story short, I, got to college. I actually lost 45 pounds my freshman year in college, not in a keto way. I went low fat. This was a time ago, because like I said, I'm 39 now, and the internet was not quite what it is today. I went low fat. I started running a bunch. I started, exercising a lot and doing things like that. And so I lost a lot of weight. But after that, I kind of, I gained a lot of it back. Not all of it, but I bounced around for quite a few years. And I actually went low carb for the first time. I don't remember exactly, but it was 2003 or 2004. And so
it's about what I did.
Yeah. A lot of people did. I think it was kind of, so, I mean, obviously we had Atkins back in the late 70s. And then the Dr. Eads, Dan and Mary, they did a lot for low carb to start rejuvenating it in the late 90s with protein powder. Protein power, not protein powder. And I think I got into it a little bit through that and through some other things. And I really loved it. I felt a lot better. It started helping me keep weight off a lot more easily at that time. And just really liked the lifestyle. And obviously not that keto is exactly the same, but that's kind of where I drew a lot of my origins from. Then went paleo with more carbs, got into keto later. And a lot of the why, there are a bunch of whys, but I think the main one for me was because I'd like to say that health has always been super important to me, but actually more important to me has always been losing fat and staying lean. It's not that health wasn't important, and obviously I prefer that people focus on health. But at the same time, I mean, if I'm being honest about it, really my why for getting into all of this, and we had a food company before this, magazines before this, but everything that we've done in health, my primary why was always because being overweight bothered me. And I personally believe that keto, especially for people who have had difficulty losing weight or have been overweight for a long time, is one of the absolute most successful methods, I think, both in the literature, but also just from my own life, but anecdotally from everything else that we can see and hear. It is one of the most successful ways, particularly for people who've had a lot of difficulty otherwise, been overweight, say for 20, 30 years, have other problems like blood sugar issues, hypoglycemia, things like that. And so that's a lot of my why.
I love that. Yeah. And then talk about what your Keto Summit, it started with a summit, but now I get amazing emails filled with information every day, I think. And then all these free cookbooks and downloadables, and buy this for like $6.97. I just bought another cookbook from you guys. So I have this full, my iPad is getting full of my iBooks, all this stuff I saved.
Sure.
So tell us kind of more about what you do and explain to our listeners who are endurance athletes, as well as people.
Yeah.
What I always tag is, what I'm trying to do is teach people to become fat burners and how to optimize their health and to improve performance from the inside out. So we talk about the holistic method is digestion and gut health, as well as nutrition, exercise, but kind of go into what you guys are doing, because I find it really fascinating.
Sure, absolutely. We're actually super into gut health now, but we could talk about that later. It's just slightly different. Yeah, so it did. So just backing up, it did start with a summit. We ran this, my friend Chris Kelly, who you
That's where I
probably
got
know.
it from. Yeah, I work with
Yeah,
them.
yeah. He,
My adrenals.
yeah. Well, Chris is the best. Chris and Tommy. There's just nobody out. I don't want to say nobody because I don't know everybody, but there are very few. There are very few people out there who have Chris and Tommy's knowledge and can do what they can do for people. But Chris did most of the interviews for the Keto Summit. We ran it because we've been doing the business side of this, and it is a business for us too. And we're not actually shy about that because we see plenty of big businesses out there that make plenty of money off of selling junk food and and pharmaceuticals and other things. And by the way, I'm not opposed entirely to pharmaceuticals. I think plenty of them are life-saving and great. But, my point is that their whole industry is built out of things that make us less healthy, whether it's smoking, alcohol, junk food. And so we're actually not shy about the fact that it also is a business for us. We do sell things like cookbooks and courses and things to help people get healthier. And we're actually kind of proud of that. We like
that should be not ashamed of being proud. It's amazing information that people can get for affordable prices.
Yeah, but a lot of people, and we do, we give away 90% of it for free. You can find tons of recipes and things. And so it started with the Keto Summit. We had a paleo website before that. So we still have a paleo website, Paleo Flourish, because we're also at base, we think everybody should be eating real foods, which is how we conceive of paleo, that is eating whole foods that are unprocessed. And then we view keto as a tool, but I'm not going to get into too much of my philosophy just yet. But point being that we had a paleo website, we did the Keto Summit, and then we turned that into a website where we publish a ton of content, free recipes. Like I said, we sell cookbooks. We sell a program called the Keto 40, which is a 40-day program to get people into fat burning mode, like you talk about for athletes. And so that's kind of how it all started out. And that's what we do. We provide a ton of free content. There was a question at the end. I think you asked that. Maybe I've gone too far off the rails now. I don't know.
I just wanted to add into that. I don't know what my last question was, but I think that was a lot and good information where we are on the Keto Summit. I just want to throw in before I forget, I was at the Natural Product Expo West convention last weekend, and I don't know how many thousands of, it was huge. I didn't get to all of it because I was working on my liver detox manual I'm making right now in my hotel room, but I got a pass to go interview and blog and podcast with people, more networking, 2 podcasts. And it was really hard to find any products that were, barely any ingredients, no sugar into it, that were low carb, keto friendly, primal paleo, whatever you want to call it. But I was looking for low carb for the athlete and whoever wants to, have foods that are easy to grab, or some different supplements they had too. But I didn't have many. The people I found was like, oh my gosh, it was the butter, the lard containers of, actually from Portland, and I'm in Seattle. And, I said, one of the few keto people here, which is different. I'm going to KetoCon in June, and I'm sure I'll find more, all specifically keto products, but so much if it's processed food and junk. It's like what happened to paleo, it's natural and organic. You really have to read the label.
Sure.
But for you guys, you're teaching people how to eat real food and make it easy to understand, because I think that's a huge thing. People hear the word keto, you're educating them on what it is and why we need to do it, which we'll get into next, but then also how to make meals.
Yeah, can I just jump in there too? And actually, that's one of what you just said, how to keep it easy. That's one of our big things, is keeping things simple and easy.
Yes.
And you're right. Paleo, keto, low carb, everything has kind of gone the way of, if you can make a processed food that sort of fits within the bounds of it, then somebody's going to do it, because look, there's money to be made there. But yeah, we try to keep it simple for people, and that is in every way, right? In fact, when people are starting keto, like when we're not consulting, but like when we provide products or services to people, our main thing is, look, just make it easy for yourself. Like, not only do we want you to plan your meals so that when you get tired or when you get busy, you're not going to fall back. Yeah. But also, a lot of people who talk about keto, they want to make it really complicated. Like, oh, your macros need to be exactly this, X, Y, and Z has to be the case. I'm like, no, look, let's get your carbs under, say, 20, 25 grams. Let's make sure you're getting enough protein so that you're not losing muscle mass. And, we have a calculator and we have other guides for that. But at the same time, we want to keep it as simple as possible. Just these few things and then eating real food. And we feel like for most people, that is by far the most successful way to go. But I'm just hopping in there because you talk about making things simple and easy. And I think that's
key.
Above all else, you can tweak it down the line once it becomes kind of habitual for you after a few months. But at the beginning, making things more complicated than they need to be is a sure route for falling off the wagon.
Exactly. And I think people fall back to going to the quick and easy grab, sandwich and chips somewhere, or, the processed foods, or the easy, quick carb loaded stuff that, just go into the next question, kind of go into that. It makes you feel like crap. And I know my blood sugar is screwed up from my adrenals. I have insulin resistance, not because of eating high carb diet, but I want to go into the benefits of keto for people, and balancing your blood sugar is what we say in nutritional therapy is the main goal.
Sure.
Is to not have the spikes, avoid the insulin spikes by having your blood sugar staying balanced. Mm-hmm. And I think keto and even low carb, high fat, you're teaching your body how to burn fat for fuel. So let's start with, what is the benefit of keto? Even though we've talked many times of keto, but I think it's always good to get those people in their head, and then the why and the benefits of it, because I know my brain health and my brain fog and my headaches from anything that's carbs are for me. So talk about your side of it.
So I'm kind of geek about this stuff too. So the place I'd want to start with that sort of discussion is dividing between what causes some problems versus benefits. And I know you asked me about the benefits, but if we back up into the causes first, the causes of things, like say eating carbs, like eating sweet potatoes, eating fruits, these things are probably not the cause in general of any of these issues, where like hypoglycemia or diabetes, or just being overweight, right? You rarely, I don't know, but I'm betting no more than one or two people in the history of the world have screwed up their metabolism by eating too many fruits or eating too much sweet potatoes or things. Insulin resistance itself is super multivariate. That is, there are a ton of factors that come into play to cause it. One of the most likely is just actually eating too many calories over time, which overloads our cells with energy. When your cells get overloaded with energy, it starts to damage your mitochondria through excess oxidation. And so our cells actually develop insulin resistance as a defense mechanism. And not everybody needs to know this. I'm going to jump into the benefits very quickly. I don't want to bore people too much, but you've got to understand, not you, but people need to understand that what got us to a problem is not necessarily the solution is not necessarily just to go back that direction. And keto is a good solution for a lot of people who have any sort of blood sugar issue or who want to lose weight, not because they necessarily ate too many carbs before, but because metabolically, when our metabolism gets a little bit broken, some of the first things that happen are the things you talked about. You get insulin resistance. You're not, your blood sugar spikes too much because you're not able to deal with it effectively. And then you start gaining weight for various reasons. Your hormones get dysregulated. Maybe you have HPA dysfunction. HPA for people, you're talking about adrenals, but your hypothalamus. Well, usually the problem is in your hypothalamus, even before your thyroid and your adrenals. Yeah. And so you develop all of these problems, which are not necessarily caused by eating too many carbs, but then going keto actually is one of the best ways, I wouldn't say to fix all of it, because it doesn't always fix all of it within a month or so, but to start remediating and healing those issues. Mm-hmm. But doing keto, what we think in a very healthy way, which is very nutrient dense, eating whole foods, like you said. In fact, our version of keto, we don't even include dairy, because most people who have any sort of metabolic issues also don't react particularly well to dairy. Dairy in the abstract is very nutritious, but a lot of people react in a very inflammatory way. So I know it's getting a little bit into the weeds, but
that's good.
And so the benefits then of keto are, first of all, to start resolving a lot of these issues. So take the simplest one, which is somebody who doesn't react well to sugar. And let's take the extreme case of somebody with type 2 diabetes, who if you're type 2 diabetic, and this is just an extreme case, by the way, because it's all a spectrum, your body, as you get less and less healthy metabolically, your body in general, along this spectrum at least, handles sugar less and less well. And so somebody who's type 2 diabetic handles it extremely badly. And so, keto in that instance is going to help you because you're not going to be eating pretty much any sugar or any starch. And so you're going to, like you said, teach, or you're going to force really your body to start using fat for fuel. Mm-hmm. And the main problem is that your body, if you're type 2 diabetic, or even if you're close to it, is that your body can't get fat out of your fat cells because you have so much insulin resistance. And so, if you start keto for the first few days, it's often why you feel really bad, because you're not getting any energy. Like, you're not getting any energy especially to your brain. So you're going to get the headaches, like you're talking about, the brain fog, at least for the first couple of days of keto. And that's why a lot of people feel bad. And the other ones because of a lack of electrolytes like sodium and potassium and magnesium. But in general, one of the main benefits of keto is going to be to start teaching, like you said, or forcing your body to burn fat, which is then going to start healing some of these metabolic issues, because it's going to start reversing some of the damage that you've done. Like I said, not going to reverse all of it. And, definitely if you're diabetic, we're talking about any sort of medical condition, check with your doctor, because obviously, you don't just want to like jump off your insulin or something and jump on keto and assume it's going to solve everything. But these are just things. But then for athletes, like you're talking about, a lot of athletes don't realize how dependent they are on sugar, particularly, when we talk about triathletes or endurance athletes. Not saying keto is necessarily the right thing for 100% of them, but at the same time, there are a lot of people who it could help with for a while. And maybe in the end, after years, I don't know if it's the best performance enhancer or not. I think there's some evidence both ways. And there's a decent chance that it may not be the absolute best performance enhancer, but particularly as a tool to get your body to start healing in some ways, and to get your body to rely more on fat so that you don't have to eat every, 30 minutes during a race, or even not during a race, right? I know plenty of athletes who every hour are like, oh, I got to eat. I'm so hungry. And that's not a good thing, because what that means is that if you get hungry within 3 hours after eating a meal, or within 4 hours after eating a meal, it entirely means, unless you haven't eaten very much, that your body is not burning fat well, that you're not metabolically flexible. Because if you're metabolically flexible, your body almost always has plenty of fat to burn. And 4 hours, 3-4 hours after a meal, there should be almost no chance of you getting hungry, because your body should be able to just start accessing that fat. Hunger is also a multivariable, so there could be other things driving it if you're seeing people eating or whatever. But point being, that's one of the major ones. And so, for me, just to simplify, because I know I've rambled a lot here. you should cut me off at some point, but I'm going to simplify the answer. So major benefits of keto: start repairing some of the damage that's often done, that you often don't even know. Start reducing inflammation that you may or may not even see, particularly if you do what we think of as a paleo version of keto, that is keto, but with all whole foods, unprocessed. And then other major ones: you'll feel more energy.
Yeah. Just froze.
Sorry. It lost me for a second.
It's all right. We got you back.
Yeah. So you'll feel more energy because your body will have access to your fat stores, which are far more than your glycogen stores. You won't get tired during the day. So many people around 10, 11, 12 in the morning feel so tired. If you're keto, or if you're metabolically flexible, that doesn't happen. You'll reduce a lot of your cravings, because a lot of cravings are driven by the same things that drive the fatigue and drive the cravings, drive the low energy. So you'll get rid of a lot of those cravings, and just feel better. A lot of people actually use it, particularly in Silicon Valley and places like that, as a performance enhancer cognitively. You start thinking better, and not just, you're more awake, which is one part of it, but you also think more clearly, because your brain is just working better overall, doesn't have as much inflammation in parts of your body that might be causing it. So sorry, that was a very long answer.
No, I know it's a huge topic, but great conversation. Love it. Love the energy. And I think, I always go back thinking back in the days when I was doing a lot of Ironmans races, and even just as I started spectating since my adrenal fatigue, I've been able to race since 2013 when my HPA access, which I had to rewrite. I wrote my book, Life is Not a Race. It published a year ago on Amazon, and I had to go back before it published to change it to HPA access dysregulation and add that, because everyone's like, it's not really the adrenals that are fatigued. It's what's before that. The hypothalamus tells pituitary to the adrenals, which we get into in nutritional therapy.
I've kind of coined the artist formerly known as adrenal fatigue.
Yeah,
We're not
exactly.
championing for it.
Yeah, I know. So I wrote my whole personal story all about it, going back in time and looking
Sure.
through that. So anyways, but going as a spectator now to a lot of races, and even racing as low carb athlete, you look at races, marathons and triathlons, Ironman distance, whatever, you look at the people racing, and if it was really a calorie is a calorie, these people wouldn't be so overweight. Majority of people that are just doing it not competitively, but just doing to finish a race, I know a lot of people just weren't losing weight or don't lose weight because
Right.
they're eating all these carbs and sugars. Also, I know a lot of clients I've said over the years is that they work out and they eat more afterwards. And because I think it's just all what you're talking about. So I think for athletes of any level, it is balancing your blood sugar out, like we're saying, eating more healthy fats, and it's just changing our mindset. Because I think, I'm 46 now, so we're raised believing fat is bad, and that's why I wrote in my book, like my whole background, I didn't eat any fat. I was like Miss Nutrition person in high school and college, like no fat, non-fat everything. And I didn't really I'm not a big animal eater, so no protein. All I ate was carbs. And so my personal background, I think I got metabolically damaged because of my high carb intake, and then add in my adrenal experience. But anyways, I think a good point is look at people around that work out all the time. And I always say the quote, you can't out exercise a bad diet. And if your nutrition plan, I don't like the word diet, but if you're not eating the right for your type and looking at a keto type of protocol and eating that way and finding out how you feel. Because the brain part to me is more motivational than, yes, I like to be lean and tone, and you gain weight when you have a HPA axis messed up problem and insulin resistance, you gain weight. So I want to look good and feel good on the inside and outside. And that includes my brain mindset too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, two of the groups who do best on, both keto and paleo diets, I keep going back to paleo and we're talking about keto, but it's because I don't separate them as much, because even paleo tends to be a lot lower carb than most. It's not only eat so much fruit and sweet potatoes in a day, but also because I'm such a big fan of actually having a good base of real foods. Yes. But two of the people who do best, or types of people, are one, people like you who come from eating a ton more plants, because it's, I'm not opposed to meat. I actually think meat is quite healthy in most ways, but that doesn't mean that plants are not supremely healthy. They really are. And I see so many people who just start coming from a standard American diet, go paleo, keto, and only eat bacon. And I'm like, bacon's fine. I'm not saying not to cut out the bacon, but come on, you need some spinach and some broccoli and some, cauliflower and things. But then also athletes who come, because you mentioned that you can't out exercise a bad diet. Which I completely agree with. And for so long, especially during the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, we thought exercise was all you needed to do. So I completely agree. I almost think we're starting to swing a little too far back the other way, because you also can't out diet no exercise, right? Like if you're not moving around all day. So athletes, who are listening to this, who go keto, and particularly a healthy version of keto, often get much better results than people who are not. Well, obviously they get better results than people who are not moving around at all, but they get more kind of astonishing results very quickly. And one last thing I would say about all of that is, particularly if you're an athlete, this doesn't have to be something you do forever, right? I don't want to say you should go keto for 2 months and then go back to eating junk food, but at the same time, you don't have to be in ketosis forever. Ketosis is a very useful tool, and a keto diet to put you into ketosis is a very useful tool that, if you have a lot of issues, maybe you need to do it for 6, 9, 12 months to heal your body and to start feeling a lot better. But then you don't have to stay on it forever. You can just go after that to eating very healthy whole foods for a while. And then if you feel like you need it again, like you feel like you're getting too addicted to sugar or whatever, then maybe you jump back into keto for a while. In fact, we do that, Louise and I. We're not keto all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's more realistic to keep it like Vinny Tortich always say, put the life into living. And I think it is, you do a reset, then it is, I sometimes say just like 80% of the time during the week, and then maybe cyclical keto, they call it as well, that you rotate, but you don't, like for me personally, I find it easy during the week, and then weekends I won't be so strict.
Sure.
And you might go out, but it's not like every day, something once a day you cheat, because then you're really not keto.
Yeah.
But I think it's adding that, mix it in sometimes.
Right. Well, and that also depends on a few things individually. If you're not particularly active, so starting from the non-athlete, then, I personally don't believe that it's best for most people to cheat at all. If they're not particularly active, by which I mean, I think it's better for them to be strict for, say, 3 or 4 months, and then maybe not be as strict for a month. But yeah, for somebody who maybe is an athlete or a lot more active, then cycling, 1 meal or 1 day a week could work just perfectly fine. It's just typically if your blood sugar issues are worse, I find that you probably need to spend 3 or 4 months really getting into it before.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So just to go back, talking about what I call, and in my book I wrote the holistic method, which I just had sitting here.
Sure.
But this is about what you're saying is kind of what I wrote about, is that to really be healthy, it isn't just exercise or nutrition. The other factors that I call the whole athlete, transform the whole you from the inside out, is the nutrition, exercise, but the sleep and the stress and movement, is a big part, because people work out and then sit on their butts all day. That's not good.
Yeah.
And then digestion, gut health that we were mentioning.
Right.
Hydration is huge. And the last one I think is just as important as any of them is happiness.
Yeah.
And being happy and finding that positive vibe, positive energy, and positive attitude is huge. So with the keto, talking about the brain health and the cognitive mental clarity, and I think a lot of that relates to the opposite of happiness. Sometimes I think, is it depression? What's the opposite of happiness? So what have you found works for people that need more, not just brain fog and clarity, concentration, but also feel good? And a lot of that's digestion, gut health, and neurotransmitters and the gut-brain connection. But what's your experience in that area, what you've discovered?
Sure. So, definitely, look, we could start on the physiological side. Like you said, gut health plays a big role. And we actually, a couple months ago, released what's the best prebiotic on the market, which very wide spectrum prebiotic that, there's just nothing else out there like that. A lot of them use like inulin FOS that is very low degree of polymer that will, feed pretty much everything in your gut. Ours actually feeds, you can never say all the right gut bacteria because it's such a wide spectrum. We don't even know exactly what all of the right gut bacteria is, but ours feeds, there's just nothing else out there like this one. So we're very, very much into gut health. However, to go to kind of where your question was leading, two of the things you mentioned happiness, and you mentioned, well, let's say 3. You mentioned happiness, you mentioned stress, and you mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm blanking now. What was one of the other?
Movement, stress, sleep. Sleep is big.
Yeah, but you mentioned mentally.
Hydration.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Well, so just talk about happiness and stress.
Yeah.
When we look at these things, and not all that many people do, but when we look at them from an evolutionary perspective, the main things that humans need are one of the absolute main things that people need is actually community. But everybody talks about community as a nebulous term. What community really is having a consistent set of people around you with whom you interact very frequently and to whom you feel important. And evolutionarily, it makes complete sense why we evolved to psychologically need this. And the reason is because humans, for 2.5 million years of evolution, could not survive on their own. And so we needed the tribe. We needed, Dunbar's number, like 140, 145, 150 people around us. And in our modern world, even though we have a lot of people around us in big cities, we don't feel very connected to them. We're not the same people. We're not interacting with the same people frequently, except for maybe, say, 5 to 10 people at our job. And so a lot of happiness, all sorts of people, from researchers to grassroots movement, all these sorts of people have talked about happiness. But happiness is actually very, very tied, and also stress is very, very tied to how important we feel to our immediate social group and how frequently we are interacting with them. And this is something that really can't be overstated. We talked today about, finding people that we jive more with, that we have deeper connections with, and that's all fine. I'm not downplaying that. At the same time, it's superbly important to build a social network around you that is strong, that has a lot of frequency, where you're interacting with them almost every day, and where you feel like you're contributing something to them, because so much of happiness, or at least so much of the foundation for building happiness, is based on that belonging and based on that sense of contribution. And so much of stress comes from not having those things. And so that's something that's particularly important to us. I admit that it's super hard for a lot of people to figure out how to build in their lives, but it's something that you really, really got to focus on if you want to decrease the stress, increase the happiness, and really just improve your overall health.
Yes. No, that's a great point. So I know we're running out of time, and, there's lots to talk about, inflammation. I want to do a whole show on mitochondria and just talk about that. That's so interesting. New stuff, not new, but just lots of information out there for athletes. But,
viruses.
What's that?
No, it's just joking. You're saying new stuff. I was like, yeah. No, I mean, mitochondria, never mind. It's too much to get into. I
know, it's a whole different topic, but what is your vision and goal with your Keto Summit, and what's next? And let's give people the links.
Yeah, so absolutely. So our goal with everything we do, so we have two companies. We have Nourishing Brands, we have Cobonic. And Nourishing Brands has our paleo and our keto and our AAP brands, and then Cobonic is its own brand. And our goal with everything is to move people from being move people we consider along the first few steps of a process towards getting healthier. So, for instance, I mentioned Chris Kelly earlier, right? So somebody who wants to completely overhaul their health, who's willing to go what I would call kind of very hardcore about what they're doing, and also spend a fair amount of money, because it's not a low investment to work with Chris or Tommy or people who are like that. And often those are athletes or executives. Somebody who's willing and able to do that, they're a little bit further down the path. What we really want to do is connect as many people as possible to the first, second, third steps of the solution for their health. So maybe that means that a first step, just making them aware of what's in their food, making them aware of how to start looking at ingredients, making them aware of what to pay attention to in their blood markers, like their blood sugar response and things like that. As a second step, starting to cook a few meals a week better, starting to take some of the junk food out of their diet, starting to move around a little more, starting to sleep at least 7 hours a night or something. As a third step, starting to maybe supplement with some prebiotics like we have the foundation, or starting to actually do 30, 40, or 30, 60, or 90-day kind of fairly strict stints where they're either paleo or keto. And so our whole goal is to move as many people as possible along that path. And, we view that path as very concomitant with a lot of other things. We are not opposed to doctors or medicine at all. We think there's a lot, obviously, that not just a lot, a ton that goes on that is just miraculous there and does so much for people. But we view our role as taking people from any of those points and moving them as far along the path as we can, and just getting them as healthy as possible, particularly along those first few steps of somebody's path.
Well, like you said, it takes 4 months to really transition to get those new lifestyle habits. And I have a program, 5-day liver detox and reset, and a 21-day digestive reset, and teaching people how to switch to more lower carbohydrate, higher fats and transition. But they actually do need to keep on my program. Like, I have a client I've been working with since January doing it, and he's like another month into it. So it is about 4 months. I agree to really get that transition. And it's just like my holistic method. I'm making sure, okay, you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours. Are you drinking half your body weight in ounces of water a day with some sea salt and some lemon? Are you doing your liver detox tea and your apple cider vinegar drink? And just training people to get this reset. And I always like to say, reboot your system.
Right.
And firing on full cylinders. So optimizing your whole health from the inside out at a cellular level. So I just think it's so right on to, really work on nutrition. But are you managing your stress? Are you moving each day? Are you exercising, doing your strength training, doing your cardio intervals and stuff like that? It's just, that's why I kind of try to vary the topics on the podcast that goes with my book, The Holistic Method, because like you're saying, it's exactly right on with what I'm doing. It's, you can't just plan on changing your nutrition and doing more of a keto diet without looking at your sleep and your stress, because, and your digestion, gut health. Because as a nutritional therapy practitioner, I have all these problems because of that HPA axis dysregulation that I have liver gallbladder problems. I can't digest and absorb my fats. My liver's not detoxifying, and it's blood sugar of the pancreas. I have insulin resistance. So even if I go low carb, high fat, nutritional therapy work with people that let's optimize those problems and figure out the root cause and supplement and retrain your body to do its thing. And then, heal and rebuild and reset with this nutritional program. But it is not just one size fits all, as we said earlier, and everybody's different and everyone's got different history and background and areas of opportunity. So it is unique for everyone. This is what you need to switch and change your lifestyle. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're doing. I love sharing people's why is my new passion. It's like, what's behind this? I was at the food show last week and I just walked around getting, you find people that started these companies, like, what's your why? And everyone that has, health product like you guys do, everyone has their own personal story. Like I have my story why I wrote my book, and I love hearing other people's, what's your why? What's your story? And what's your mission and your passion? So people can find you where and what's up next.
Yeah. So I'd say, there are two main places they can find us right now, at least in this vein. One is ketosummit.com. So KETO summit.com. And the other is CoBionic, COBionic.com. And those are, we're focused on growing these and growing. We have other stuff that we're doing, but just focused a lot on growing the businesses, but also just growing the reach, just trying to reach more and more people through podcasts, through content, through everything else. Because, look, we feel like our products, whether they're cookbooks or supplements or whatever, are very good. We've put a lot of time and effort and money into them. And they're excellent. And people not only love them, but we have tons of people who've, made big changes in their life and in their health with them. And so that's most of what's up for us in the near future. We're trying to focus because like many people, we've had troubles with focus in the past and have tried to do too many things. And
this year, my word's positive vibes, positive energy is my word. This year, last year was focus.
Focus. Yeah.
Focus is always a tough one.
Yeah.
We want to do so much. We've got brain power. We've got too much brain thoughts coming on that we're so clear.
Somebody, and I don't know who to attribute this to. I heard it at some point on a podcast. Somebody said the secret to success, I can't remember if it was in life or in business, is to have one really good idea and then to try really hard to never have another one. And I'm sure I'm misquoting it a little bit, but it's basically true.
Yeah, I know. I always get stuck in that. I just added an infrared sauna to my studio, a sunlight and infrared. So now I'm like, why did I just add a whole another business pretty much? Because now I have to build it up and then program. They have to market. It's like fitness studio, nutritional therapy, now infrared treatment, and it's like never ending. And then I want to podcast and build my book and get out and network with people. But it's like juggle everything together. No adrenal issues, but I kind of on the edge all the time. Yeah. So thank you so much. Are you guys going to PaleoFX or KetoCon or anything coming up?
We are not. We're trying not to travel that much. That's part of the focus.
One thing. One seminar I did in my mastermind group I'm in is what the F? Like, what the F? Focus. Just one thing. Just finish it and get it on. So I appreciate that. I'm right with you.
Yeah. It's hard, though. It's hard. We actually just bought another house up north and we're going to rent it out some, but it's
another job.
It's more to do. And we're now thinking that we probably shouldn't have. Not because it's a good investment. We like the house even for ourselves or whatever. We're not living there. But point being that, did we really need to do that to add something more? No. It was
that's adrenal type A personalities always adding to the plate. We also have to hold it back. One thing. Yep. So, well, thank you, Jeremy, for your time.
Thank you, Debbie.
I look forward to doing more with you in the future. And I really want to do a summit, the Holistic Method Summit that we have. Talk about all the topics to transform people from the inside out. So that's my goal next year. But
awesome.
I don't have everything else going on.
All right. Yeah. No, let me know. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.